Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope everyone's had a wonderful week and that you guys are all doing really well. This week is actually a very fun video, which I've never done before. I mean, clearly, almost every video I do is something I've never done before. I'm still pretty new to this, but it's basically me giving you guys book recommendations based on things that you guys have asked me on my Instagram, on my Bookstagram. So if you guys don't know and you guys want to see more bookish content, I post reviews and annotations and just pictures of my books and bookish content on my Instagram as well, which is Alina is Reading. Follow me there if you want to. If you don't, that's okay. But yeah, I will be looking down, but that's only because I've written everything down here and I've written like books and book recommendations according to the tropes down here. So let's get on to the video. The first trope that I have is books where they're married and they explore their relationship. So there's two books that I have for this. Technically three. The third one is not my favorite, but I will recommend it to you because maybe it resonates with you. Sorry, my necklace is lopsided. Okay, number one is Ever After Always by Chloe Leese. This is one of my favorite books actually, like ever. This is a second chance romance between like this married couple. This is, I think, the third book in the Bergman Brothers series, which by the way, it follows like this group of siblings, all love sports. So if you guys like sports romances, I think all of them have sports aspects to it, but this book specifically is between Freya and her husband Aiden, and Aiden is this college professor. Freya is this very amazing physician, I think it was, and or was she a doctor? I'm not sure. But basically, they've been married and they've been in a relationship for over like 10 years now. And after like 10 years, like right now, Aiden and Freya's relationship has been very cold because they've been trying for a kid. They can't have a kid. Aiden's very anxious about like the money aspect of having a kid, and he doesn't share that and he doesn't communicate that with Freya. And so, their relationship's kind of falling apart. But they had to act like everything's perfectly fine because Freya's parents, they are going on like this family vacation to like this resort, and during that time Freya's like, I don't want to worry them, I don't want to worry anyone else, so we have to act like we are a-okay and that we are in love, and so they have to act like they're in love. Second book that I have for this is You Deserve Each Other. So technically they're not married yet in this book. This is one of my most favorite rom-coms ever, like in my life. I think it's one of my most favorite books ever. But basically, in You Deserve Each Other, you guys can tell how much I love it. In You Deserve Each Other, there's Naomi and Nicholas, and they're like engaged to get married, except this far in the engagement they realize they've fallen out of love with each other, and they don't want to be the one to pull out of the wedding because they think it's like admitting defeat. So they both start like annoying each other, and then like, I would say, sabotaging and pranking each other, trying to push each other's buttons and to get the other one to fall out of love, like in a way that's huge enough to call off the wedding. And so that's what basically pushes them to like engage with each other in like more communication and more conversation, and they fall back in love. The third book that I had really high hopes for, but it low-key let me down, but it's kind of the same thing, is Forget Me Twice. This book basically follows a couple that's been divorced for a year, and the husband is in a plane accident and he forgets, like, his memory goes back 2 years, and so he gets like I think amnesia. Is that short-term amnesia, momentary amnesia, short-term, we're just gonna search it up, amnesia. There's no internet. Okay, yeah. Husband gets amnesia. He forgets like 2 years down the line. He thinks everything's okay. And then, the ex-wife has to act like everything's okay. And she brings him home and she's like, no, we're going through a rough patch. But she doesn't tell him that they're divorced now. And, they gotta act like they're married. Well, she has to act like they're married. He thinks that they're married already, and they have to work through that. The last book in which they're married and they explore their relationship is The Co-op by Tara DeWitt. This is one of my favorite books also. Again, this is a marriage of convenience in which basically there's these two people who really dislike each other. They were frenemies when they were kids, so they weren't really friends, they weren't really enemies, they were like a mix between the two, and right when they had started developing feelings for each other, something went wrong, and after that they just started hating each other, and then for a long period of time they didn't meet, and now both of their grandmothers passed away, and they left their estate to Larry and Deacon. And basically, to get the estate, they have to act like they're married, so then they get married just so they can get the estate and start like renovating it for like sale. And during this time they really explored their relationship, worked through like past stuff, worked through future stuff, and it's really nice, it's really cute, it's really funny too. I think everyone should read it. The next thing that someone asked and wanted was enemies to lovers but halal. And the book that I have for this is a Hana Khan Carries On, which is basically this very cute halal enemies to lovers. It's also like a restaurant rival to lovers, or basically there's a local biryani poutine place, which if you're not Canadian, poutine is this dish that has fries, gravy, and cheese, and does not have biryani, but there's this fusion restaurant. It's very cool, and across the street there's this like a food chain that's coming in, and the owner of the food chain is not a great guy. He's trying to buy out like local like restaurants and gentrify the area, and so Hana and her family are like at risk of losing their business, and so obviously she hates the guy. But she's also like this podcast enthusiast, and she, if I'm remembering correct, she works at a radio station, something like that, or she has a podcast, and she's constantly talking to this person who has a different username. But anyways, that's irrelevant. Aydin, which I hope his name is Aydin. If it's not, then I'm thinking of a different book. But Aydin is the son of like the chain restaurant owner, and he's trying to scout out and see, like, spy on each other and trying to like convince them that he's not that bad, that this is necessary for the community, that the community is going to be better off if we gentrify it. And Hannah's just really annoyed. She hates him, and they kind of get to know each other, and they kind of really like each other, and it's very cute, and I think everyone should read it. Next thing is Angry Love Confessions, which I think Hana Khan Carries On also has an angry love confession. But the other book that has a very cute angry love confession is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, specifically book 2, which is Good Girl Bad Blood. Very cute book. Basically, if you guys haven't read this, I think everyone and their mom needs to read this book. It basically follows Pip, who is this girl who's doing her A-levels, which if you live in a British school system, hi, welcome to us. It's horrible here, but she's doing this A-level project, and she's trying to like solve this unsolved case of Sal Singh, who apparently murdered Andy Bell, who was like 2 years senior to her. And so she starts working with Sal Singh's brother, Ravi Singh, who I love so much. Anyways, yeah, so they start working with each other, and you know, she goes really far to find the truth. She tries to solve the case, and yeah, that's all I'm gonna say without giving anything away. Great book. I think everyone needs to read it. I think it's amazing. All right, next up is a book where the villain likes the main character. So I have like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have like 5 books for this, which technically not all of them are very accurate. The most accurate to this, I would say, is the Renegades trilogy by Marissa Mayer, in which basically Nova is this girl. She's like the villain. She's outwardly part of this villain gang, and she goes undercover into like the hero academy, and she kind of teams up with like the city's main hero's son. And during this time, she's trying to also take them down, which is great. So, you know, she also starts falling in love with him. So the villain is falling in love with the main character. Another book for this is Only a Monster by Vanessa Lynn. This, I've talked about this a lot. This is one of my most favorite books of the year, like 2022. Has monsters and enemies working together, and basically in this book, the girl again is technically she is the villain, and she falls in love with the hero, who is Nick, this guy who's supposed to be like a monster slayer, and he's out on like the lookout for her. But she also falls in love with a different villain. So this also has like a love triangle where the villain falls in love with the hero, is running from the hero, is trying to kill the hero, take him down, but also is trying to kill the enemy villain, and falls in love with the villain as well. You get what I'm saying? I hope you guys get what I'm saying. Next up, a classic, Shatter Me by Tahira Mafi, which basically follows this girl. Her name is Juliet, and Juliet has been in the reestablishment. She gets taken into like this solitary confinement area where and that's due to the fact that she has these powers where if she touches someone, they die. And during this time, she kind of is very isolated. She's very misunderstood, and obviously, like, I can analyze this book a lot. We're not gonna do that. I'll just tell you the plot. So after a lifetime of freedom, of like not having any freedom, Aaron Warner, who is the son of like the leader of the reestablishment, specifically the unit that Juliet belongs to, he takes her out of like that place, and he's trying to like run tests on her and stuff like that. And in like the first few books, I think everyone who's read Shatter Me knows, but anyways, the first 2 books, he's the villain, and he does end up falling in love with Juliet. Another book I would say has this is Kingdom of the Wicked, where the 7 sins are basically 7 princes of hell, and Wrath is summoned by this witch, and that's very against it's very against what she's been taught as a kid, and that's because Emilia, who is a witch in Italy, her twin sister gets murdered, and so on the hunt for like the murderer, Emilia summons Wrath, and during this time, though, she hates him. He's a villain. She thinks he's the one who did it, and she falls in love with him, and he falls in love with her. The last one is Warcross by Marie Lu. This is a very sci-fi book, so if you guys like sci-fi, I would say definitely go into it. It's like a futuristic something that I can see definitely happening, where like teenager hacker Amika Chen makes a living catching illegal Warcross players, but the bounty hunting world is constant struggle, and when Amika takes a risk and hacks into the opening game of Warcross championships, she accidentally ends up like becoming an overnight sensation. She gets called to Tokyo, and in Tokyo she thinks like, you know, the guy's gonna put her in jail, like the owner of Warcross, but he hires her to work for her, and during this time she unveils a bunch of stuff that's very confidential about Warcross in itself and like what the establishment stands for, and you know, the villain kind of falls in love with her, and she kind of falls in love with the villain. Yeah, that's about it. Enemies allying together to fight a common enemy. So the best one for this, I would say, is A Broken Blade by Melissa Blair. This has become one of my most favorite fantasy, like YA fantasy books ever. I think it's so absolutely wonderfully done. It basically follows Kira, who's like the king's like highest assassin. Like, she's the king's blade, basically. That's like her post. It's called the King's Blade. She's this very expert assassin, and she's sent out on this mission to find the Shadow, who is this guy who's wreaking havoc everywhere, and he's basically threatening the king's power. But during this time, she meets the Shadow, and she realizes he's not who she thinks he is, and she starts working with him, and you know, she has to like choose a side. She has to work together with this guy. It's absolutely wonderful. I think everyone and their mom needs to read this book. Next up is This Savage Song. This is an urban fantasy, one of my favorites. I feel like I've been saying that about every single book, but all of these books are just absolutely wonderful. But in This Savage Song, it's basically humans' actions manifest as consequences and become monsters. So if someone kills someone, a monster is made. Something like that. You get what I'm saying? And there's certain ways like that monsters are manifested, but basically Kate Harker and August Flynn are living in this area that's divided down the middle, and one is owned by this gang leader who has monsters at his like, you know, like, it's not, the word's not display, he just has monsters working for him. And August lives under like this area which is ruled by these heroes, and they're like against monsters and this gang war, and so basically there's just gang wars going on, and August is sent to the school that Kate goes to, and he has to spy on her. But while he's doing this, someone tries to kill both of them, and then they realize that they need to save their lives, like both of them save each other's lives, and they have to work together to get out of like the situation and find a way home. It's absolutely wonderful. I absolutely love this book so much. Everyone should read it. Up is I'd Burn the World Down for You. The two books that I can think of is number one, Shatter Me. Actually, no, three books. Number one, Shatter Me by Tahir Mafi. I've talked about this already. Number two, These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, where basically this is like a Romeo and Juliet retelling between two gangs, Russian and China, in Shanghai in the 1980s, 1970s. I cannot remember which 19, but one of the 1900s. And the other I'd Burn the World Down for You is Six of Crows. This is I think top 10 books of my life. Six of Crows comes in it. Basically is a found family between these six outcasts. All of them have different talents, have different traumas, have different pasts, and they have to work together to go into like this area that's like a court that's impenetrable, but they have to like get this material, and it's just amazing. And all of them have feelings for like one person within the group, and it's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think for this book they would burn the world down for their significant others, but they would also be like burning the world down for each other. Like the six of them, I think, just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. There's an ambulance outside, I'm so sorry. Next up is Assassins Assigned to Kill Each Other. And the only book that I can think of this is Mindfuck series, which basically follows Lana Myers, who's this girl. She is the Scarlet Slayer. She's like this killer, and she stumbles into this FBI agent. She doesn't know that he's assigned to look for the Scarlet Slayer, and they kind of fall in love. And you know, I think the reason I say assassins assigned to kill each other is just because they can kill each other. They do have the skill set, and yeah, so like, you know, they both don't know who the other is. Like, well, she knows he's an FBI agent, he doesn't know that she's a Scarlet Slayer, and so, you know, throughout she's trying to commit her crimes, and he's trying to find Scarlet Slayer all while she's living right next to him. It's a very amazing book. I do really love it, but I will say check trigger warnings before going into this, because this has very extremely heavy topics. It's very graphic in certain ways, and so yeah, definitely like check trigger warnings before you go into it. Next up is slow burn, and so if you guys know me, you know how much I love slow burns. Like, I think slow burns are like the best thing on the planet. I absolutely love slow burns so very much. I have 2 slow burns in my mind because I was thinking about this and for some reason my mind was blanking. I do have a video on my TikTok for slow burns, but I was too lazy to go look at it. So the 2 slow burns that I do have is number 1, Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This is one of my favorite Lauren Asher books. I think this is like her best book yet. Follows this guy, Declan, who is like the CEO of like a theme park that's kind of like Disney, so it's like very Disney-esque, and it's his assistant, and they have to get married because his grandfather passed away and he was like the owner of the theme park, and he left certain clauses within the will, and so Declan has to get married and has to stay married for a year and get a kid to own and like get full ownership of the park. And so him and his assistant, they have like a marriage of convenience. He's very grumpy, very like stubborn, very uptight, and she's very happy-go-lucky, loves plants, loves the sunshine. It's very fun to read. I really like it. The second slow burn I would say is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. This is a slow burn between a football star. He's like this big celebrity, and he basically does not want to get traded for a different team. He wants to stay with the team that he's at, and so he asks his assistant, who quits, to marry him. And his assistant basically has a bunch of student loans, and she's like, you know what, that's great, I will marry you, you will pay off my student debt, and you'll give me a house, and I'm fine with that. And she's very sunshine, she's constantly dyeing her hair, it's very cute. But I will say Mariana Zapata is very problematic as an author and as a person as well. She's racist. Her books, specifically I think Dear Erin, has racist elements, so if you are planning on reading The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, I would say don't support the author directly if you get the gist of what I'm saying. I hope you get the gist of what I'm saying. Alright, that was all for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, because I really enjoyed curating these lists, and it was very fun to constantly get up and sit back down. I don't think I have any videos of me grunting, because every time I sat down, I'm wearing very tight, like from the waist. My jeans are very nicely fitted, so every time I sit down I'd be like, anyways. I'm glad none of you guys got that. But thank you guys so much for sticking around and watching this video and clicking on it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to support my channel in any way, shape, or form. That can be via subscribing, commenting, liking. Leave a comment down below. I will be reading, and I'll be seeing you guys next week. Thank you so much for being here. See you guys.